You have tried everything, the wire brush until your shoulder ached, the chemical degreaser left to soak overnight, the burners cranked to the highest setting for an hour, hoping the black crust would just burn away. For a few minutes after each attempt, it looks a little better. Then the black comes right back. Meanwhile, in Japan, home cooks keep their grills spotless for decades using water, heat, and one thing already in your kitchen. That single difference is going to change how you clean for the rest of your life. But before we get to the prevention method, we have to deal with what is already on your grill right now. That black crust caked onto the bars is not coming off with anything you have tried, and it has to go before any prevention work can begin. So we are going to split this into two parts. First, how to remove what is already welded to the metal using nothing but what is in your kitchen. Then, how to set things up so the buildup never returns. Quick before we continue, let me know down in the comments what you have been using to clean your grill. Is it working? To understand the Japanese method, you first have to see what is actually on your grill. Because once you see it, the reason every tool you have tried has failed becomes obvious. And so does the fix. People talk about that black crust like it is dirt, the way dust sits on a shelf. It is not dirt. When fat and oil hit a hot metal surface in the presence of oxygen, they polymerize. The reaction accelerates sharply above 200 degrees Celsius, which is well within the range your grill hits while you're cooking. The fat molecules link up with each other into a tough, cross-linked polymer. It is the same chemistry that turns linseed oil into a hard finish on a wooden tabletop. That is why scrubbing alone never wins. You are not wiping away food. You are trying to grind off a coating that has become part of the surface. Hold on to that, because it is the single piece of information that makes the Japanese method work. And we will get to exactly how in a moment. But first you have to understand why the two tools you have already tried were never going to break that bond. The first is the steel wire brush. It feels powerful in the hand, but its bristles cannot reach down into the pores where the polymer has fused. What they can do is shed. Under the pressure you have to apply, the wires snap off, lodge between the bars, and end up in the next meal. Emergency rooms in the United States alone pull these bristles out of patients' throats and stomachs every year. The tool quietly became a household hazard. The second is the chemical degreaser. It is built to lift soft, fresh grease off a cool surface, and it is good at that job. It cannot break a polymer bond at room temperature, no matter how long you let it soak. So you spray, you wait, you scrub. You get the soft top layer off. The welded base coat sits where it always sat, and a film of solvent settles into the pores and cooks into your next meal. So if brushing harder does nothing and chemicals do nothing, what does? This is where the Japanese approach turns the whole problem upside down. Now let me say something clearly about the strongest version of this advice, because the internet is full of bad guidance on this one. You will see people online recommend oven cleaner sprayed onto cold grates, sometimes left overnight in a sealed garbage bag. Yes, that combination of sodium hydroxide and surfactant will eventually eat through some of the carbon. The problem is that sodium hydroxide is also caustic enough to burn skin on contact, ruin the protective porcelain or chrome finish on many grates, and leave a residue that has to be rinsed out of every pore before the grill is safe to cook on again. Most people do not rinse it that thoroughly, so they cook their next meal on a thin film of caustic chemical. Honestly, just skip it. Heat plus baking soda does the same job without any of the damage. Here is what does work. Heat plus chemistry, in that order. Close the lid of the grill and run it on high for 15 minutes until the thermometer climbs past 280 degrees Celsius. You want the surface hot enough that the hard polymer coating chars through and turns brittle. Cracking from a welded glaze into a flaky ash the paste can lift. You are reversing the small factory you accidentally built every weekend. While that runs, mix the working paste. 3 parts baking soda to 1 part water. Roughly 3 tablespoons of soda to 1 of water. Any wetter and it runs off the bars before it can do its job. It has to stay thick enough to cling to a vertical surface, the way wet sand holds its shape. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate, a mild alkaline that sits around 8 on the pH scale. That alkalinity is what breaks grease down, loosening the fatty residues so water can carry them away. This is the chemistry the wire brush never had on its side. Turn the grill off and let the grates cool just enough to touch safely. Spread the paste across the bars and give it 5 full minutes. The alkaline needs that time to creep into the charred film and lift it. You may even hear a faint fizz while it works. Then take a ball of crumpled aluminum foil, dip it in warm water, and run it across the bars. The brittle, heat-cracked carbon lifts away in dark flakes, sliding off instead of fighting you, because you broke the bond before you ever touched it. The foil conforms to the round shape of each bar and reaches the grooves a flat brush skates right past. A rinse, a wipe with a damp cloth, and the steel underneath comes back the color it was the day you bought it. No shoulder ache. No shower of metal bristles, no solvent residue. That is the rescue. Be honest with yourself about what one round can do. If your grate has been allowed to build up for several years, a single pass may not take the deepest layer off. That is fine. Repeat the cycle. Heat hot, paste weight, foil, rinse. 2 or 3 rounds on a really bad grate, and even the worst of it comes off. After that, you do not need to do this ever again, because you switch over to the prevention routine, and prevention is the part that actually deserves the word Japanese. Walk through any traditional Japanese kitchen, any tidy izakaya at closing time, any home where someone cooks every night, and you will see the same small habit almost everywhere. The grate, the pan, the knife, every working surface is treated while it is still warm. From now on, while your grill is still hot from cooking, give the grates one pass with a damp folded cloth held in tongs so you never put your hand near the heat. The heat does the work. The moisture flashes to steam, and the fresh grease, the soft kind that has not had time to polymerize yet, wipe straight off with almost no pressure. Then drag a lightly oiled paper towel across the bars. The thin film builds a smooth, slick layer the way a well-seasoned cast iron pan works, and it seals the pores so the next round of grease lands on oil instead of bonding to bare steel. Hot wipe, light oil, close the lid. The whole ritual takes under 2 minutes. It happens while you are already standing there, and the buildup never gets the chance to become permanent. There is one more piece of timing wisdom worth mentioning, because it makes everything else easier. The window for the hot wipe is shorter than most people realize. You want the grate hot enough that moisture flashes to steam on contact, but cool enough that you can work close to it with tongs. That is the moment right after you take the food off, before you shut the burners down. Treat it then, and the fat surrenders without a fight. Wait an hour, let it cool fully, and the same fat begins its polymer reaction. The job that took 10 seconds now takes a paste and a foil ball and a Saturday afternoon. Wipe hot, oil while warm, close the lid before it goes cold. 3 actions in that order every single time. Most people get the order backwards or skip the oil and then wonder why the carbon comes back. A word on the oil itself, because people ask. Use whatever neutral oil with a high smoke point you already have in the cupboard. Grapeseed, canola, sunflower, refined rice bran. Avoid olive oil and butter for this job. They smoke too early and leave a sticky residue that becomes the next layer of carbon you have to scrape off. A teaspoon on the paper towel is plenty for the whole grate. More than that, and you are pooling oil into the burner trays below, which is its own slow problem. The goal is a sheen, not a coat. Run your finger across a treated bar, and it should come away barely marked, the way a properly seasoned pan feels. If your fingertip comes back wet, you use too much. Wipe the excess off with a dry corner of the same towel. A quick word on what to do when something is not working, because every grill has its problem spot. If you have hit the same patch of crust 2 or 3 times with the paste and it keeps coming back, that is not a failure of the method. That is the carbon telling you about how deep the polymer went over the years. For those spots, the honest answer is patience. Treat them every time you cook with the paste and the foil, and each round takes another microscopic layer off. By the 3rd or 4th cookout, the spot is gone. This is the deepest expression of the Japanese mindset applied to a tool. Not a single dramatic battle, but a long, quiet consistency that the carbon cannot match. You do not need to be stronger than the buildup. You only need to be more consistent than it is. There is a quiet pleasure in this once you settle into it. The first few weeks feel like a chore you are forcing yourself to remember. By the 2nd month, the hand reaches for the cloth without being told. By the third, you notice you are looking forward to that small moment at the end of cooking, the way some people look forward to wiping down a knife after dinner. It becomes part of the meal, not separate from it. Japanese home cooks describe this as the difference between owning a tool and tending one. The tool you own will eventually break or be replaced. The tool you tend will outlast you and pass to someone else. Let us talk costs. A box of baking soda runs about $1 for 2 pounds and lasts a full season of cleaning. A roll of aluminum foil you already have in the drawer. A cotton kitchen cloth, the fukin, is whatever you already use for wiping down the counter. Compare that to the ongoing cost of the old way. A bottle of degreaser is $8 to $12, and most people burn through several a year. A replacement set of grates runs $60 to $150, and the wire brush strips the coating fast enough that people end up buying new grates every couple of seasons. Call it well over $100 a year to keep losing. The Japanese approach is a few cents per clean, and the peace of mind matters too. You can hand a burger to your kids without scanning the meat for metal slivers. You can cook for your parents and your friends, knowing nothing on the plate is glazed with last summer's spoiled fat or this morning's solvent residue that is worth more than any line on a grocery receipt. There is one more cost that rarely makes it onto the receipt, and it is the one most worth counting: time. A neglected grate eats a full Saturday 2 or 3 times a season. Add up the trips to the hardware store, the soaking, the scrubbing, the rinsing, the hand washing afterward. Then add up the 2 minutes a night the Japanese approach asks for, multiplied across a summer of cooking. The new way comes out ahead by hours, sometimes by a full day across the year, hours you spent at the grill instead of fighting it. That is the trade nobody calculates honestly when they reach for the wire brush again. You are not just losing money to the old method. You are losing the weekends you bought the grill to enjoy. Here is a practical routine you can start this week. Today, run the rescue once. High heat for 15 minutes, baking soda paste, 5-minute wait, foil ball, rinse. If the grate is in really rough shape, do it again next weekend. From then on, every single time you cook, do the hot wipe. Damp cloth and tongs, one pass while the grate is still hot. Then the oiled paper towel. Then close the lid. Once a month, glance at the grate before you start cooking. If anything has crept back, do a quick paste and foil round before the heat goes on. That is it. No spraying, no protective gear, no wire shedding into the next meal. The deeper lesson here is not really about a grill. It is about a way of thinking. The Japanese approach to a kitchen, to a home, to anything that needs ongoing care rests on one quiet idea: prevent rather than fight, maintain rather than rescue. The hardest mess to clean is the one you let build up for a season. The easiest mess to clean is the one you handle the moment it appears. A film of soft fat wiped at the right second is a 2-second job. The same fat left for an hour is a 10-minute scrub. The same fat left for 3 months is a chemical problem you spend money and worry on. Most of the modern Western approach to cleaning has been shaped by companies selling you the cure. The Japanese approach is shaped by households practicing the prevention. Once you see the difference, you cannot unsee it. Your grill does not have to be a battleground every summer. Your weekend does not need to be lost to a wire brush and a bottle of chemical that scares the dog out of the yard. It just needs a damp cloth, a paper towel with a little oil on it, and the small ongoing attention that a Japanese home cook would call normal. Let me know down in the comments if this changed how you think about the grill. And hit the subscribe button for more advice like this. Next week, we are covering the Japanese method for bringing a rusted cast iron pan back to life without scrubbing the seasoning away. See you then.